Hi folks, welcome to my Tour de France updates. This will be stages 10 through 12. We had one kind of boring stage that I'm going to explain why it was boring and then breeze through. And then we had one of the most exciting stages that I can remember in recent Tour history, followed by a fun, kind of messy one. This video is sponsored by my coach, FastCat Coaching, and his new training app. If you have goals, if you're racing, if you're training, if you're just looking to improve at something, you'll know that there's a giant difference between just riding hard and having an actual training plan. FastCat has a huge library of training plans. You can sort of pick your goals and lock one in, and you'll learn like, oh, this is what the cycle looks like. This is the build. This is the recovery. You'll learn a lot. You'll improve. That makes a huge difference. Once you've done that, the next step from a training plan is to have a personal coach. Now that can get super expensive, and it's kind of work on your end. You've got to keep in touch like, oh, I got to change this around. I've got to move that. I've got to pick up the kids at school. I've got work things. FastCat's app is a new, innovative, in-between option. Whereas coaching can be like $700, $1,000 a month, their app is $20 a month. It's got all the years of my coach Frank's experience. All that data is fed into his AI to build you a custom training plan and make adjustments and tweaks on the fly, just like your coach would if you send like an emergency text message in the middle of the night, except he won't be mad at you and you won't feel guilty about it. There's a free 30-day trial. Check out the link below. All right, so if you remember, stage 9 was the gravel stage. They had a rest day. And then stage 10, total snooze. There was no breakaway. There was a lot of like, there's crosswinds coming up, there's maybe weather coming up, and everyone's sort of just like fighting for position at the front. Nobody even bothered with the breakaway. It's a weird thing when the breakaway doesn't happen. They just like the riders, decided to write their own script. So it's probably a combination of that certain teams want to keep the pace up, want to keep their guys at the front, which just makes the race faster in general. They were way ahead of whatever the made-up Tour de France schedule is that day. And so it's a combination of that and like the guys who are normally supposed to go for the breakaway are like, I don't want to do it. It's hopeless today. There's just too many good sprinters teams. There's too many people who are going to be dedicated to the sprint. I don't want to just be your little sacrificial lamb. I'm going on a revolt. What that makes for is a day of really nothing for the announcers to talk about, nothing for us to watch. The whole pack is just riding 8 wide. I'll throw in an unpopular opinion here. It's fashionable to make fun of the announcers, to be like, oh, the announcers are so terrible. And that's been going on for 11 different versions of the announcers since I started watching the Tour de France 20-something years ago. My belief there isn't that every announcer has always been bad. It's that this kind of an event just doesn't lend itself to full-time live commentary. There's just nothing going on. All they can do is pretend that something is going on, something might go on. So like, oh no, there could be a crosswind coming up. Or, oh look, there's clouds near the finish line. It might rain. The truth is, a fair reality of the bike race is just straight up boring. And there's nothing they can do to spin plates. Maybe they should just learn how to juggle. I nominate Chad Haga to start doing commentary and just play the piano. That would be lovely. But the American feed this year is Brent and TJ, and they get, I'd say, the same number of complaints that everyone gets every year. It's also Brent's second time, TJ's first time doing this. I suggest give them a break. It's a hard job. At least they're nice dudes, and they'll figure it out. So you'll be forgiven if you start watching stage 10 at like 3K to go. You won't miss anything. Cavendish looked kind of good. At least his lead out looked really good. They're on the front. And then they looked back, and Cav was nowhere to be seen. Not great communication there. They swung off. There was a point when the announcers said Morkov is going to go back to find Cavendish and then bring him back up. Nobody has 2 accelerations in their legs. Like if you're going back during the lead out, you're just going back. Like Morkov is just going to like maybe give Cavendish a wave with 100 meters to go. You don't have a second acceleration to bring your dude. It's fine. Who nailed the lead out was Alpecin de Koenig. Matthew Van Der Poel just shot up, Philipsen on his wheel, dropped it off. Like just the most textbook, beautiful, perfect. He had all the speed, and Philipsen got it. Now, I'm sure it's still really hard to not have those dudes come around you when you have a perfect lead out, but the best comment I saw on that was Cosmo Catalano was saying if Philipsen didn't win that sprint, they were going to make him hitchhike home. They wouldn't let him back on the bus. But he did. He got it. It's fine. And by the way, the punishment, in my day anyway, if you had a terrible race, the team director would make you ride to the hotel, and their thought was like, oh, you need the training in the middle of a stage race? Terrible. I don't think they're doing that anymore. Stage 11 started out mostly flat, but there was a hilly finale. The GC teams kept the break around 2 minutes. They kept it close. This was a kick-ass nail-biter of a stage. You want to start watching this one at like 50, 60K to go. The first move, of course, Emirates was putting the pressure on the second to last climb. Tadej launches near the end. The same thing he tried on the Galibier, he tried here. I think my theory is, if you just, from a pure bottom to top perspective, I think that Jonas is faster uphill right now. If they did like an uphill time trial, I think Jonas might have it. What Tadej has is the numbers. He has his team with him so that they're keeping it there. And there's no version where Jonas is going to get to go to the front and crack Tadej and isolate Tadej. That's just, we're pretty far from that right now with the strength of Tadej's team. So Tadej is not going to win by cracking Jonas. I think he knows that on a long climb. But where he can win is by that acceleration. He has that little pop. He's very snappy for a climber. I've talked about this before. But his move has been to attack with a K to go, 700 meters to go on the Galibier, and then that move will isolate Jonas. Jonas at least believes he has to follow that. I would too if I was him, or at least try to follow it. But then what happens is they're chasing each other down a descent where Tadej has a little weight advantage and potentially like a skill advantage for Jonas, who just had a terrible crash and might be a little bit heavy on the brakes. To be fair to him, he's not been. But if I was Tadej, that would be my hope. So that move had worked on the Galibier. Tadej tries it again, stage 11. Has a good gap. I think he got up to like 40 seconds. The difference this time is that Roglic got his way back up to Jonas, and those two were working together a little bit on the descent and in the valley. I think that gave Jonas a little bit of recovery, not a whole lot of twisty descent. There's just really not much help. Then we got to a steeper, shorter climb, closer to the finish, and Jonas turned on the gas, and it was awesome. I think he was 40 seconds behind Tadej on like a 10, 11 minute climb. And he knew if he didn't close that, he was going to lose time on the GC. So he went right at the bottom. He just started pushing. He rode Roglic off his wheel like it was nothing and just chipped away at Tadej's gap the whole time, the whole way up that climb, and got to him right near the top. There were some internet theories that Tadej bonked, and he did, to be fair, he did look a little bit bonky. This is like almost tinfoil hat because we base this on nothing. He was asking for a bottle. He got a bottle from neutral support, which isn't exactly a good sign. That means he's probably out of the bottle, whatever his team is providing. God knows, but neutral probably just has water. So one theory is that Tadej just wasn't topped off on his nutrition, no glycogen left in the muscles, which was just enough for the guy who attacked on the climb before. Well, now you're running on fumes and whatever fat reserves that guy has in his frame, which was that little bit of difference for Jonas to come back. Tadej did have the snap to win the time bonus for the top of the climb, and then it was those two working together for the finish with Roglic and Remco behind. I'm sure that Tadej and Jonas were having a little bit of a laugh at Remco's comments a couple days before on, you guys need to grow more balls on the gravel stage and pull with me for some reason when, they dropped him on descent. So where the balls really help was there. Armchair Race Organizer, this was another stage where we're seeing real racing, real GC battles taking place on long, twisty descents. They've all got some snow melt in a corner here and there. It's nice to not see super tucking. I like that rule. I'm glad that guys are holding their handlebars and sitting on their saddles when they're going 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. It was already a nail biter. It didn't have to be like scary and high stakes and that much more likely for folks to crash. At the finish, Tadej and Jonas are going up together. Tadej had him right where he wanted him. It looked perfect. I would have bet if you'd asked me to bet money in the last 11 seconds, if somehow we could have had a handshake, I would have totally lost that. Tadej looked like he just had it in the bag, making Jonas lead it out. Tadej is usually, historically, I think, always been better in that situation. Jonas starts sprinting. Tadej cannot get around him. It was close. It was the overhead view was beautiful. I already would have watched that stage over and over, but now I would watch the finale over and over. I love watching climbers sprint. That's always great. But Tadej just kind of loves shooting from the hip and racing his bike. And Jonas is really the opposite, just showed so much poise, so much perfect timing, so much pacing and patience. Very well-deserved win, and just kick-ass to see that after the season he's had. Just behind, Remco and Roglic chasing together. Roglic crashed in a turn following Remco. Kick-ass stage, kick-ass finale. Highly recommend checking that one out. Stage 12, on paper, sprinter day. Another kind of a snoozer. They let a break go. It's Abrahamson in there again. Amazing bike riding, of course, this tour by him. There's been comments. He said he put on 20 kilos this year, and that seems to have worked fine. It's interesting to compare that to Cavendish, who after the second stage, and he was, he had his struggles in the mountains, said if you've got my body type, don't ride the bike, don't get into cycling. Everyone should get into cycling, regardless of your body type. It was just like a funny conflict of someone saying like, you need to be skinny and look like Phil, and this guy being like, no, you should just, be beefy and strong and fit. I have a lot of thoughts on the anorexia of pro cycling is a problem, and I like seeing folks push back, and I really hate, I know it happens, I know it's a thing, but I hate seeing athletes be like, oh yeah, I lost 5 kilos for this race. Just keep it quiet. Don't give the kids an eating disorder. Remember, I'm not going to say which team, but at the beginning of the year, they asked you like, hey, what's your height and weight and birthplace, whatever, to put on the website or on like your playing cards or something. And I said, I'm 6'1", 148. And then I look on the website a month later and it says 145. And it's like, what, 148 wasn't gross enough, 6'1"? Of course, power to weight matters, but these guys are doing it over a period of time with expert guidance and a ton of experience and a super controlled environment. When I used to do the Ask a Pro magazine column, and I still do the website thing, just a ton of people are always asking me like, how do I lose weight? How do I get skinny? And it's just a bummer how much of that is the conversation, and I just refuse to participate anymore. To the kids out there, just be healthy, be fit, be strong, exercise, eat right. That will be the correct way. Don't just look at some pro cyclist weight and try to be that skinny. That's not going to do it for you. Be an Abrahamson. So for some reason, it was Movistar who was chasing the break on stage 12. I'm not sure what that was about. I'm guessing, they said that they have faith in Gaviria to win the sprint. No offense to Gaviria. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I think what's more likely, and this is like an old school, maybe a Spaniard move, is when they're supposed to be in the breakaway, they're supposed to have a guy in the move. If you miss it, if the team doesn't make it, then the director will punish them by saying, well, now you have to ride the front. That's in the old school punishment category, but I could see that being a thing that happens on Movistar. Now in this one, unlike a normal sprint stage, you got to start watching this one with 10K to go because there was a bummer of a crash, but it matters a lot. I forget who went down first. Someone from Astana just flipped over. There was a cement barrier in the middle of the road that you hit and went sideways. I didn't see the typical like guy waving the orange flag on that one. That caused not a serious crash, not like a dangerous crash, but a crash that had real repercussions in the race as Roglic went down, and we're not at 5K to go. You don't get same time. It's 10K to go, and the logic of the 5K to go rule doesn't get to apply here. So Roglic got to lose GC time. So he came in fighting for a podium spot at the Tour, and that's looking not possible. Also caught out in the crash was Mathieu van der Poel, which made the sprint a little bit more interesting, a little bit messier. Philipsen didn't get it gift wrapped. Cavendish was in there, but not really, not quite. If you take a look, honestly, Wout van Aert had the best sprint in there. He shot up the right side, got squeezed against the barriers, switched sides and went up the left and still almost got it. He was still like half a wheel from the win, but Girmay had a straight run, wasn't doing the barrier thing. He was right down the middle, got his third stage win, just still good to see. If I was in France watching from course, definitely second to last climb, stage 11. You saw all the fireworks. You saw Tadej coming back. You saw Jonas inching up to him, and then the mess, and you'd see all the sprinters at the back. You'd probably get some free water bottles, stuff like that, maybe some hats from the Swannies. That'd be a good time. Unpopular opinion, this is going to trigger some folks, but it's been bothering me. I could never keep my mouth shut. After Cavendish's record-breaking stage win, he went on Lance Armstrong's podcast. Now with Lance, I understand it was just doping. He shouldn't get the death penalty. He didn't murder anybody. You're not going to jail. Lost a couple lawsuits, but got to keep pretty much all the money. It's totally fine if he wants to go ride a bike with his friends. The only thing in the world I think it's insane to let him do is talk about the Tour de France, go to the Tour de France, be involved with the specific thing that he destroyed for an extended period. And I get it if you're kind of new to the sport, if you haven't been paying a ton of attention, if you didn't live through that, it's like, oh, everybody was doping. That's kind of the message that Lance puts out. Everybody was cheating. He was just cheating too. It's not a big deal. But if you lived through that, if you had interaction with him, if you know people who had their lives just fully, their careers ruined by that dude. For Cav, like every performance he had was questioned. All the media just like, well, are you doping, Cavendish? And all the piss tests, he still has to give his whereabouts for like 20-something, 25 years. He has to say where he is at all times for someone to come take his blood and urine. And seeing the sponsors rise and fall from that whole mess, all that, like Cavendish lived through that hard. And you could even find interviews of Mark being super pissed about it after the whole Oprah interview, or at least pretending to be pissed about it. So it's like Lance has a big podcast. Cav, I get it. You want to go on it. That feels like you're being validated. But it's the other way. You're validating him, man. Like, you're the real deal. Peacock has, like, Lance isn't on the tour commentary, but he has, like, The Move thing is in their feed. And I just feel like they have sort of a timeline somewhere where it's like, okay, and this year, Lance is at the desk. That's when I don't think I'll be able to, I just get like a guttural, painful reaction seeing that dude's face. I think that might be the end of me being able to watch the event at all. That's why, like, shout out to Brent and TJ. Having Lance Armstrong do commentary on the event that he destroyed would be like, it'd be like electing for president someone who tried to overthrow the... Never mind, forget it. But with Cav, like, we're already overlooking that you're wearing an Astana jersey. I know that's the only team who would assign him. That's the only choice. It's tough to see anything great happen. It's really hard to cheer for someone in that jersey. But got to do what you got to do, and he did it, and we're all happy for him. I wish there was someone in his life to be like, yo, when Lance calls, just hit the red button, because Lance is going to taint your legacy. You know, he's going to make people question what you believe in. Sorry, that got cathartic. I could do another 75 hours on that. I won't. Polar opposite, I'm enjoying the Sean Quinn interviews on NBC. Super nice guy, LA dude. I get to ride with him once in a while. He did a little iPhone video with one of the soigneurs, with Sophie. We call her So-So. I just made me so happy to see Sophie's face on TV. I knew they both lived in Nice. I didn't know that apparently Sean and Matteo Jorgensen are roommates. That's gonna be good for both of them. I think it's gonna be good for Sean to get to train with like one of the strongest guys in the world now. Not that Sean needs any help, but that's gonna be quite the duo, ripping up the Madone together, having fun, making each other stronger. Two more armchair race organizers. The gravel stage, that was super fun. We watched the whole, but the complaint about it was that, oh, this is high stakes, there's a bunch of gravel sectors, this could be a day that ruins the GC for someone from just a flat tire or a bike change. What about just like a gravel sector here and there? You know, we've got like this stage has one climb, this stage has one crossman section. What if they just sort of like keep an eye out for potential, you know, there's gravel all over France. There's you know, just like if couple stages here and there have one or two gravel spots, and that's the thing we get to talk about and prepare for, rather than just like trying to concentrate it all into one day. What if that's just one of the elements of the, you get it. Anyway, last armchair race organizer for this one, the KOM points. Abrahamson is collecting them. He's in all the breakaways. He's nothing but TV. And he's probably going to lose it to Tadej, who's just, you know, not even really racing those. He's just going for them at the end for time bonuses and trying to win stages, trying to win the GC. I want them to re-weight the KOM points. Like the way it works is the harder the climb, the more points you get. So that's going to favor the GC guys. You know, re-weight the early ones or maybe disqualify the ones that are already a mountaintop finish. That guy's going to win a stage. Redo it in a way that there's really something to race for the Abrahamsons out there. I want to see him take that to Paris, and that's really more a matter of like math than his ability or his effort when it boils down to it. Armchair team director, Tadej, put on some gloves. Send the man some nice yellow gloves. Gloves are just like such an obvious, there's no, skin is slow, there's like an aerodynamic advantage, but like people, you're very likely to crash in a bike race. It's gonna happen. There's a lot of sliding downhill. Not having gloves can make a minor crash into an absolute disaster, ruin your tour situation. Just put the things on, it's no big deal, dude. What's coming up next? Stage 13, hilly. Stage 14 and 15, some good mountains leading up to the next rest day. So we'll probably check in then. Thanks, see ya.